Hello and welcome to this gorgeous city of London. Britain over the last few months has been split down the middle. While one half wants in, that is to remain in the European Union, another half wants to leave the European Union, which is after 43 years of a beautiful marriage which works so very well. But now it seems that the referendum, which is to be held on the 23rd of June, is going to decide which way Britain votes. There have been exit polls which have suggested that at this moment the Leave campaign is in the lead. However, things have changed. There have been a few unpleasant developments during the campaign, with British MP Joe Cox, who was murdered brutally, after which campaigning was suspended and then was resumed again. But joining me on this show is a grand panel indeed. I'm going to introduce from my right to left Lord Billimoria, Lord Poppet, MP from Harrow Bob Blackman, Baroness Verma, and a whole set of people who are here from the industry, from the industry, which is FICCI. We have Pratik Dattani, chairman of FICCI, and many employees, and they're from different backgrounds. And that is going to really give us or reflect on just what Britain is thinking at the moment, particularly the Indian community. I'm going to start with Lord Poppet. You've been campaigning with the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister, David Cameron, has been saying remain, otherwise you're doing a recession upon yourselves. Your initial comments on why people should vote remain?
I think if we vote to leave, for example, it will have a very serious consequences on the economy. And we will probably bring what we call a do-it-yourself recession, unnecessary. It will shrink our economy, and if the economy gets shrinked, our tax revenue will drop. It will have a serious effect on our public services, including National Health Service.
Lord Billimoria, you stated a list of what you call bogus claims by Brexiters like Bob Blackman and the entire team. The first of those claims, you said, was that according to the Brexiters, the Leave campaign says we pay about 350 million per week as subscription fee that Britain pays to the EU. Is that correct? Bob is nodding.
The Leave campaign has made various claims, and the most misleading of them all, or one of the most misleading, has been, and it's been on this battle bus of theirs, it says £350 million a week is what Britain contributes to the European Union. And then they've got an advertisement that you can see on the internet where they say, well, if we leave, we can save that £350 million and put it all into the NHS and solve the NHS's problems. It is so misleading, it is dangerous. The £350 million that we put in, we actually get a rebate from the European Union of £200 million. It's a net £150 million. So our overall contribution is £8 billion. And if we're going to say that that £8 billion is going to sort out the NHS's problem, which has a budget of well over 100 billion, let alone our government's annual expenditure of over 700 billion. The 8 billion we put into the European Union is barely 1% of our public expenditure. To think that that's going to sort out this country's problems is ridiculous that people can fall for it. So I think that's extremely misleading.
The reality is the Treasury figures, not my figures, the Treasury figures, £350 million to join this very expensive club, of which after the rebate, it's actually 270 million net, which is 38.5 million pounds per day to belong to this very expensive club. Now, the reality is that we can, if we're not sending that money to Brussels, it's up to us then to choose what to do with that money. Now, we are the fifth biggest economy in the world. The defence of Europe has actually been defended by NATO. It's nothing to do with the European Union. That's one of the fears that has been stoked up by the Remain campaign. Actually, if we get this on the record, the key is, yes, there will be an economic hiccup. Actually, the hiccup is going to be whether we remain or whether we leave. But the forecasts are very strongly.
So you do acknowledge there will be a hiccup, even if we leave?
I think we should be. I think one of the problems about this campaign is that you have to be honest about it to people. There will be a hiccup. Now, recession actually just means 2 quarters of negative growth. We will have a short period of time, and then after that, the economy will grow quite dramatically as people realise that we have a tax regime that's business friendly. We want people to come and invest. We're not suddenly going to switch off from trading with our European partners, far from it. And by the way, we have a huge balance of payments deficit with the European Union. So actually by negotiating a new trading arrangement, we'll be far better off.
But Baroness Verma, it's not just Britain which is split down the middle. The Tories are torn apart. It's very appropriately dressed in blue, but
That was pure luck.
all right. So is Prime Minister David Cameron going to stay, whether Britain votes to remain or leave?
No, look, first, can I just come back on Bob's argument
Okay,
first?
okay.
Because what they have failed to do is to say we take ourselves outside of a 500 million people bloc, that most people enjoy the benefits of free movement, free trade, no tariffs. All of those things, Bob, get lost because you and people who want to leave are actually selling everybody this yarn that suddenly things are going to be rosy, and they're not. We know how long it takes to negotiate trade deals. We know that most of the countries across the globe want us to stay because they see us as part of this massive block of business, of movement, of enterprise, of opportunity. Why would we want to give up all of that for something that all of us sitting here have no idea what will it look like once we're out?
Yes, the uncertainty is there. Nobody knows what's going to happen. So, Bob, while you say there's going to be a hiccup, how much time do you give to Britain for it to be back on its feet again?
About 6 months. And the reality is
assumptions?
let's be quite clear. No, we get the project fear. It'll be a decade of uncertainty. We should remember that there are 500 million people in the European Union. There are 2.2 million people out there across the world in the Commonwealth. I'd rather be trading with the Commonwealth and with
countries like India.
with countries like India on a tariff-free basis, and then I'm sure the Germans will want to still sell us their Mercedes, BMWs and the rest of the goods that we pay at the moment a huge amount of money to Germany and the rest of the European Union. We have that balance of payments deficit. We will still be the financial centre of the world because everyone will want to trade with us and keep their trade going through London.
Okay, that's an optimistic view, perhaps. There are a lot of things that we want to discuss based on this, but then I'm going to quickly go across to people here, voters. You're going to be voting on the 23rd?
Yes, definitely.
What do you do?
So I'm from Dhaba Lane, and we're a small startup bringing healthy food to London. And as a small startup, the food business, even on a good season, we import onions, potatoes, tomatoes, not in 100, but in millions of tons. Where are we going to get that from? That impacts me. That impacts my bottom line.
Exports and imports will be a problem. What do you want?
Out.
Why?
Looking at some of the very simple things that have happened, in this country we can't import Ayurvedic medicines. This is how Europe works. Where is the democracy? This is about democracy. And to be honest, if we are saying we're delegating democratic authority to Europe, then let's get rid of all of our parliamentarians, because we don't need them. We can't have it both ways.
Okay.
We as Europe are a very big partner in EU. We can make a much bigger impact in the EU and the way EU works than being out of it. You're going to be a very weak negotiator if you're out of EU. You're going to be at back of the line.
Okay. Stronger in, literally so. FICCI's chairman Pratik Dattani is with us. Pratik, I met you when you were midway a survey that you conducted with industry leaders, Indian origin mainly. What did it tell you? And honestly, has it swayed a lot at the beginning wanted in from the Indian community? Has that moved? Has that changed?
Well, I agree with Bob on one thing. Britain should trade more with India. But the reality is that when the Indian Prime Minister came here in November, he said that London and Britain is seen very much as a gateway to Europe for Indian business. And that's on the trade and investment side. So we've talked about trade quite a lot so far. In the last 3 years, although Britain's diplomatic network in India has expanded significantly, trade has been flat.
Yeah.
Trade has been flat despite the best efforts of the British government. And that's in terms of British exports. To say that we'll leave the EU and we'll be able to renegotiate all of it, it's simply not going to happen, because there will be a huge number of other priorities.
Okay. Uncertainty is something the business sector doesn't want. The pound has fallen, and I spoke about this to Prime Minister David Cameron. Listen to what he had to say.
It's a very broad campaign that wants us to remain. As you say, the Conservative government, Conservative Prime Minister, but also the Labour Party, the Green Party, the Liberal Democrat Party, the trade unions, business, and our great friends around the world, including Prime Minister Modi in India. That's one reason. A second reason is jobs, because it's all about our access to a market of 500 million people. That's one of the reasons why India is investing so much in Britain, creating so many jobs in Britain, and we need access to that market. I think a third reason is opportunities for our young people.